now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you here with us today. We have a all VFL show for you today. We're going to talk about the state of the Tennessee program, where it's been, where it is now, and how it got in between those two spots. We'll also take a look in the last half hour at some of the memories these guys have of Neyland Stadium. It's the 100th anniversary, so who better to talk to than a bunch of guys who played on that field. That's all coming at you. Let's start it out. First segment of our program brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. When you need an attorney, be sure to hire a local attorney with knowledge of the local courts, local people. Lots of outsiders advertise here, but Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm are here. The Garza Law Firm been in East Tennessee for years and years and years. When you need an attorney, go with a local attorney, the Garza Law Firm. All right, let's welcome in the panel tonight. This afternoon we have Sterling Hinton right here. Former Vol quarterback, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, John P.
Right over here, J.J. Surlis, former Vol defensive player. Appreciate you being here, J.J.
Good to be here, John.
And down there, former Vol defender, former NFL defender, Will Overstreet. Will, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Appreciate you all coming in here. As I said, I want to start by looking back at where this program was and then how it got into the shape that it's in today. So let's talk first about when you guys came to Tennessee. And I got a graphic here just to show people. These are all out-of-state guys, in case you didn't remember that. None of these were local products. You had Sterling Hinton, of course, played 87 to 90 from Passaic, New Jersey, wound his way down here. J.J. Surlis from 89 to 92. J.J. and I are about the same age, so Sterling, that puts you. I'm just looking. I always thought we were the same age. You're older.
I'm ancient.
You're ancient. And J.J., of course, came down from Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. His father actually was a linebacker for Bear Bryant back in 1970, 71, that era.
Correct,
so,
yes.
And then Will Overstreet came about a decade after these guys when the program was already, I mean, you came when they were humming, when they were just tearing it up. Came from Jackson, Mississippi. So all of you had some in-state people that were upset with you when you left. But I want to talk to you, just let's start and we'll go down the line. Who was second on your list? Who were you considering outside of Tennessee? And then why did you pick Tennessee, Sterling Hinton?
Syracuse and Maryland. And then, of course, I considered Rutgers. But, you know, it was amazing. I committed to Syracuse. You know, I went to Syracuse on a recruiting trip, and they played Georgetown in basketball, and they had, you know, Patrick Ewing was there, and, Ronnie Cycli, Per Washington was for Syracuse, big thing in the Carrier Dome. And, you know, I was set. You know, I was going. And came down here, and just something about Tennessee that said, Sterling, this is you. And I came, you know. Besides the fact 16 was open and the training table was underneath the dorm, and you know, and hey, they just won the Sugar Bowl. So
yeah. So you came and redshirted for a year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Came redshirt.
JJ, as I mentioned, you came from Pennsylvania. What was your backstory on picking Tennessee? Why Tennessee, and where else were you looking?
Well, I'd been committed to Pitt for quite a few years. A lot of weekends after we played high school games at night, we'd take off and go down to Pittsburgh for the weekend. Of course, watched the Panthers play, and they were doing well, you know, up-and-coming teams also. But I had a little different situation. My dad was coached by Ken Donahue, who was at Tennessee at the time. So I had a tie here. And so, you know, just a phenomenal guy, just had history with Bear Bryant. And just he'd show up my locker in the mornings in high school, and it was just like I was in awe of him.
Right.
And he was all basketball games and things, but he just kind of was there all the time. Got to have you, JJ, and I just kind of, you know, felt like I had to be part of the Tennessee program when I got down here to see it. Fell in love with it. And so I was kind of hooked at that point in time. So I backed out, got a little backlash from the people in Pittsburgh there, but thought I made a great decision here.
Okay. Will Overstreet, you were really highly recruited throughout the Southeast coming out of Jackson. Who else wound up on your list that didn't quite get it, that Tennessee beat out? And then why Tennessee?
Yeah, so, I mean, I visited Alabama, Florida, UT, Ole Miss, and Georgia. And so it really came down between Ole Miss, Georgia, and UT. And, you know, looking at that, making a decision, I'd always told my parents, I said, listen, I don't know how good I'll be. I may not play. I may be a great player. I said, if I could be as good as I wanted to be and reach my goals, where would you want to do that? Would you want to do that on a team that's 8-4, you know, just barely there? Or would you want to be on a team that's going for championships? And so I looked at the size of the stadium, the stage, and where you were going to be, and, you know, being on TV all the time. And I said, listen, if I think I can be as good as I want to be, I want to do it in front of the biggest crowd possible, in front of most people, and for something on the line. And then with that, it just, when I came to Tennessee, I went on my visits, you know, there were other places that I could have technically made that argument about, Florida and some other places. It just, I connected better here. It just felt like, and you know, my dad kept repeating that to me the whole time. And he said, listen, you've got to go like it when you're not playing as well, right? You can't just be satisfied with the game day experience. There's a lot more days where you don't play than the ones you do.
Absolutely.
And so about that, it just felt right. The team, the people, it kind of just felt like you fit in. And so those were the two big calls and pulls that really made the decision for me.
And you picked Tennessee over Georgia and then home state Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So those
are the final three really that I came down to.
blowback pretty bad from Ole, because you were such a hotshot recruit that Ole Miss fans really thought you should stay and turn things around for them.
Yes. We caught some blowback. There were some, you know, not nice notes, some not nice messages and things like that. Yeah.
Here's the thing, and we'll carry this over into the next segment as well. When you guys came, Tennessee had won the Sugar Bowl in '85, so you're kind of coming off that. They'd been to 4 or 5 bowls in a row. They weren't, you know, a top 10 team at that point. They were the Sugar Bowl year, but then they dropped back off. But they were building. You could see it was coming up. They were in the national news. They were always top 25. And Will, when you came, dominant. So that had to have played some role in Tennessee over Syracuse. I mean, you may have thought this felt better, but where Tennessee was as a program also had to have some sort of role for backing out of the Syracuse thing, backing out of the Pittsburgh thing, correct?
Right.
Well, it's funny that, you know, because I just remember the weather playing a big factor.
Weather, okay.
Weather was a big deal. I mean, come on, 70 degrees in February, you got to be kidding me. I left home in a snowstorm and came out to 70 degrees. But what's more interesting is, you know, that year in '88, we had an unfortunate season, started in '06, and Coach Donahue was coaching. And he was telling me about JJ, because JJ was wanting to go to his favorite pit, and I guess he was favoring my high school teammate Craig Ironhead Haywood.
Right.
So and Coach Donahue was,
That's where I was.
hey, tell him Craig's leaving. You know,
That's right.
it's amazing how it worked back then in those days.
Well, I tell you what, when we come back, the world has turned, and we'll get into some of the things that have changed for Tennessee over these last 10, 20 years and what's changed in college football that's worked against Tennessee. But if the landscape were, when they came out, what it is today, would they have wound up at Tennessee? That's the question. Come on back on the Sports Source. We'll see how they answer it.